My boss stole my girlfriend. Then, while he was in a hotel room with her, he deliberately video called me. He wanted me to see, with my own eyes, exactly what they were doing. He wanted to break me. But he didn't know that watching his smug, taunting face didn't make me angry at all. Instead, I just smiled and slowly turned my camera. That's when he saw who was with me. His own daughter, lying right beside me in a hotel bed, in the room right next to theirs. Today was Chloe's 20th birthday. I'd left work early, cooked a huge dinner of all her favorites, and even bought a fancy chocolate cake. All I had to do was wait for her to get home. But the minutes ticked by, and soon it was almost 10:00 p.m. No Chloe, not even a text. I couldn't stand it anymore. I pulled out my phone, about to call and see if she was stuck working late again. Just as my finger hovered over her name, my phone buzzed to life. Assuming it was her, I answered without even checking the caller ID. I'm at the Starlight Inn, 8th floor, room 808. Get to the nearest pharmacy and bring me a box of Viagra. Now, Jesus, this girl is an absolute knockout. But my damn equipment's failing me. Tried a few times, no luck. I'm not letting this night be a total loss. The voice on the other end wasn't my girlfriend's. It was my boss, Rick Peterson. He sounded drunk, a nasty, excited edge to his voice. But I hesitated. Mr. Peterson, tonight's my girlfriend's 20th birthday. I've got dinner and a cake ready. I'm just waiting for her to get home. Maybe you could call someone else? I can get one of the other guys from the office, too. Are you giving me excuses? He slurred, cutting me off. Didn't you hear me? I'm in a hurry. You think this job is a joke? You think I can't fire you for dragging your feet on a simple task? Don't think I don't know how much you've spent on that girlfriend of yours, he sneered. With your pathetic savings, how long do you think you'll last without a paycheck? You won't even be able to afford groceries, let alone birthday parties. You have 10 minutes. Get here in 10 minutes, or you can pick up your final check from HR tomorrow. Before I could say another word, he hung up. I gritted my teeth, a curse dying on my lips. Shit, still, I had no choice. I grabbed my keys and bolted out the door. In the elevator, I sent Chloe a quick voice message on WhatsApp. Hey, babe, something urgent came up with my boss. Have to run an errand for him. I'll be back as soon as I can. If you get home before me, please wait. I promise we'll still have an amazing, unforgettable birthday. I jumped on my scooter and gunned it toward the nearest 24-hour pharmacy, my heart pounding with a mix of humiliation and anxiety. With the pills secured, I raced toward the Starlight Inn. I was almost there when a sleek, black BMW pulled out in front of me. I swerved hard, my scooter wobbling violently. I managed to avoid a full-on collision, just barely scraping past the car's rear bumper, but the sudden movement sent me sprawling. My scooter clattered to the asphalt, pinning my leg underneath. A sharp pain shot through my knee. I looked down to see a rip in my jeans and the dark slick of blood starting to well up. It hurt, but I didn't care. I tried to scramble up, my mind fixed on Rick's 10-minute deadline. I couldn't get fired. I struggled for a moment, unable to free my leg. Then, the BMW's driver's side door opened, and a woman jumped out. She was tall and graceful, her long hair and white dress seeming to float around her as if she were some kind of angel. It was Rick Peterson's daughter, Madison. She rushed to my side and helped me push the heavy scooter off my leg. Leo, is that you? She asked, her voice filled with concern. What's the hurry? You have to be careful. She gestured to my leg. Look, you're bleeding. Get in my car. I'll take you to an urgent care clinic right now. Madison was in my year back at college. With her family's money, she'd always carried herself with an air of untouchable privilege. Around me, though, she'd always been surprisingly gentle, even quiet. She'd even asked me out once. But Chloe and I were both from small towns, kids who'd worked our asses off to get into the city for school. We had a chip on our shoulder about people like Madison, who seemed to have everything handed to them. I turned her down without a second thought and chose Chloe. Right now, looking at her, all I felt was a fresh wave of resentment. If it weren't for her father, would I be in this mess? Her concern was just delaying me. If I was late, if I got fired, how was I supposed to give Chloe the life she deserved? I ignored her, got back on my scooter, and sped off without a word of thanks. Hey, I heard her call out behind me, her voice a soft sigh. It doesn't have to be this way, you know. You don't have to live such a frantic, miserable life. Her words were quickly swallowed by the wind rushing past my ears. I finally reached the Starlight Inn, practically threw my scooter against the curb, and ran inside, jamming the elevator button for the 8th floor. Room 808. I didn't even glance at my watch. I just pounded on the door. Rick cracked it open, his body blocking the view inside. He was naked except for a small white towel wrapped precariously around his waist. His skin was pale and flabby. I forced a smile, my stomach churning with disgust as I handed him the box of Viagra. "Am I on time?" I asked, still catching my breath. He snatched the box from my hand. "You cut it close," he grunted. "5 more seconds, and you would have been out on your ass. Next time, be faster. I don't like to be kept waiting." He slammed the door shut. But in that brief moment, as he'd reached for the box, I'd peeked over his bald head and through the crack in the door. I was curious, in a morbid way. Who was this knockout he was with? Was she really as amazing as he said? And if she was, what kind of woman would trade a night with that fat, old pig for money or power? I only caught a glimpse, but it was enough to make my heart stop. 2. Lying on the bed, her back to me, was a woman with a breathtaking figure. The curve of her body, the long, straight hair cascading over a slender neck, the delicate waist, and the long, pale legs. It was a perfect match for Chloe. For a dizzying second, I thought it was her. The door slammed, shaking me from my stupor. I could hear Rick's heavy footsteps rushing back toward the bed. I didn't want to hear what came next. It couldn't be Chloe, I told myself. She would never be that cheap. It was just a coincidence, someone who looked like her from behind. That's all. Chloe worked at a different company. Rick wasn't her boss. There was no connection. It was impossible. Besides, I've been gone for a while now. Chloe was probably already home, sitting at the dinner table with a smile on her face, waiting for me to walk through the door so we could finally celebrate. I turned and walked away from room 808, my mind racing. I took the elevator down, got on my scooter, and headed home. When I opened the door, the apartment was dark and silent. The elaborate dinner I'd cooked sat untouched on the table. No Chloe. I called her name, searching every room, but the place was empty. Was she working even later than usual? Or worse, had she forgotten it was her 20th birthday? A knot of anxiety tightened in my stomach. I pulled out my phone again, ready to call, when I saw a new message notification from her at the top of my screen. I opened it immediately. "Hey, honey, just go. I have a ton of work tonight. Not sure when I'll be done. If I'm not back when you get home, don't wait up for me. Just eat without me." True love isn't about being together every single second, right? We'll have a lifetime of birthdays to celebrate. Just knowing you care this much makes me the happiest girl in the world. I love you forever. It was a reply to the voice message I'd sent her from the elevator. She responded right after I sent it, but I've been so caught up in Rick's disgusting errand that I hadn't even noticed. Reading her words, a strange mix of emotions washed over me. A warmth from her love, but also a bitter pang of guilt. I didn't reply. I didn't want to bother her while she was working. I felt like I was failing her. We'd been together for years, and I still couldn't give her the life she deserved. I was making her work herself to the bone. She couldn't even enjoy her own 20th birthday with me. I swore to myself, right then and there, that I would work harder, make more money, and give her a better life. Soon, I didn't eat. I didn't go to bed. I just sat at the table and waited. No matter how late she was, I was going to be there to celebrate with her. The hours dragged on. My exhaustion grew until eventually my head slumped forward and I fell asleep right there at the table. I was woken up by a gentle shake. I blinked my eyes open, disoriented. "What time is it?" I mumbled. Chloe was smiling down at me. "It's after 1 in the morning," she said softly. Her birthday was officially over. A wave of disappointment washed over me. She told me she'd already eaten at the office, so she didn't touch the dinner. I had no appetite either, but I still lit the candles on the cake and sang happy birthday to her. I watched as she closed her eyes, her hands clasped together, making a wish with a look of pure, serene happiness on her face. We blew out the candles together and each had a small slice of cake. After that, we washed up and went to bed. As soon as she lay down, she turned her back to me. I wasn't tired anymore, having already slept at the table, and I moved closer, wrapping my arm around her waist, wanting to be close to her. She shifted slightly. "It's so late," she murmured, her voice thick with sleep. "I'm exhausted from work, and I have to be up early tomorrow." Dejected, I let it go. I just held her gently, and closed my eyes, eventually drifting off to sleep. The next morning, I woke to the bright morning light. I just opened my eyes when she stirred and woke up too. I turned to look at her, and my eyes widened in shock, fixated on her knees. Both of her knees were bright red, almost raw-looking. It looked like she'd been kneeling for a very long time. I was certain they hadn't been like that yesterday morning. Her skin was so fair that a mark like that would have been impossible to miss. This had to have happened sometime after she left for work yesterday. Last night, she came home so late, and we just went to sleep, so I hadn't noticed. My mind unwillingly flashed back to the Starlight Inn, to the brief glimpse I'd had through the crack in the door, to the woman on the bed with the figure that was a mirror image of my girlfriend's. Could it really have been her? No, it made no sense. She didn't work for Rick. She had no reason to even be in the same room with him. Even if she were desperate for money, she would have gone to her own boss, not Rick. And besides, Chloe wasn't that kind of person. She was pure, graceful. The thought of a sleazy old pig like Rick would only disgust her. "What is it?" Chloe asked, noticing my strange stare. Your knees." "What happened?" "My knees." She looked down, a flicker of confusion on her face, followed by a sharp intake of breath. "Oh!" A blush spread across her cheeks, and her eyes darted around nervously. But then, just as quickly, she broke into a smile. "Oh, right. I remember now. That must have happened last night. You know, when we were—" She trailed off, looking bashful. "Last night?" I asked, confused. "We were intimate last night. I thought you just came home, had some cake, and we went to sleep." "Well, yes," she began, her gaze dropping. "I was really tired, and I know I turned you down when you wanted to. I felt terrible about it. You went to all that trouble for my birthday, making that amazing dinner and getting a cake, and I ruined it by working so late. Then I was too tired for you. I felt so guilty when I woke up in the middle of the night," she continued, her voice growing softer. "I want to make it up to you, but you were sleeping so soundly, I didn't have a heart to wake you. So, I went ahead and took care of things myself." She finished her explanation with her head down, her cheeks a deep, beautiful crimson. "Oh," I said, a wave of relief and tenderness washing over me. "I see. Thank you for being so good to me. But next time, just wake me up, no matter how deeply I'm sleeping. An experience that wonderful is something we should share, not something you should have to handle all on your own," I teased. "Okay." She nodded, a happy, shy smile on her face. We got up, had breakfast, and left for work together. We parted ways at the subway station with a reluctant kiss, each heading to our separate offices. The first person I saw when I walked into my office was Rick. He was glowing, a smug, self-satisfied grin plastered on his face. He looked like a man who hadn't just had a sleazy one-night stand, but had found true love and spent his wedding night celebrating. But the way he looked at me was different. There was a strange, knowing amusement in his eyes, a hint of mockery. I figured it was because I had so obediently run his pathetic errand for him while he was with another woman, reinforcing his view of me as a lowly subordinate. It pissed me off, but what could I do? I needed this job. To give Chloe a better life, I had to swallow my pride. I forced a smile, gave him my usual deferential nod, and walked to my desk. Out of the corner of my eye, I saw his grin widen, the mockery in it growing even more pronounced. He disappeared into his office. A few moments later, my phone vibrated several times in my pocket. A new message. Maybe it was Chloe. I pulled it out and opened my messaging app. In the next second, the world fell out from under me. The messages were photos. Bed photos. The man and woman in them were unmistakable. It was Rick Peterson and the woman from the hotel. And this time, I could see her face. It wasn't someone who looked like Chloe. It was Chloe. There was her beautiful face, a face I knew better than my own, flushed with a rosy excitement I had always believed was reserved only for me. And there, on her right arm, was the small, plum blossom-shaped birthmark that confirmed it beyond any doubt. The photos were a sequence. In them, I could see her long, pale legs, her knees going from their normal, fair color to a faint pink, and then finally to the deep, raw red I'd seen this morning. I couldn't breathe. A searing pain tore through my chest. The woman I loved, the woman I trusted completely, had betrayed and lied to me. She hadn't been working late. She'd spent her 20th birthday with my boss. The bruises on her knees weren't from some selfless act of love in the middle of the night. They were from him. In my mind, she had been perfect, untouchable. Last night, I had been so sure that the woman in that hotel room couldn't possibly be her, that she would be disgusted by a man like Rick. These photos were a series of brutal slaps to the face. I was a fool, a complete and utter fool. Suddenly, Rick's smug, mocking expression from this morning made perfect sense. I deserved it. He was screwing my girlfriend, and I was the pathetic idiot who ran out to buy him Viagra, worried that I might be a second too late and ruin their good time. The photos had been sent by Rick himself. He was provoking me. He saw me as so pathetic, so utterly worthless, that he could flaunt his conquest right in my face without fear of consequence. I had brought this on myself. My groveling last night had only fueled his arrogance. Just then, a series of text messages came through from him. "Hey baby, was I amazing last night, or what? Don't let this old man's age fool you. After that little pill your boyfriend brought over, I'm better than any of those young guys. I bet your boyfriend has never made you feel as good as I did last night. And you, wow, you were incredible. So wild. You nearly drained me dry. But I loved every second of it. I can't stop thinking about it. Too bad you're not here with me now. I have to settle for looking at these pictures to remember the moment. When are we meeting up again? Next time, we'll get that pathetic, clueless simp of a boyfriend of yours to be our delivery boy again." It looked like he'd sent the message to the wrong person. He must have mistaken my contact for Chloe's. Our chat profiles were similar. Mine was forever and always, hers was always and forever, and our profile picture was the same photo of the two of us together. It was an easy mistake to make, but another, colder possibility surfaced. He knew exactly who he was sending it to. He was doing this on purpose. Rage, pure and undiluted, surged through me. My hands clenched into fists. I was about to shoot out of my chair and storm into his office to kill him. But right at that moment, my phone rang. The timing was almost supernatural. The caller ID was Madison Peterson. Seeing her name only fueled my anger. But I was also baffled. In all the years since I'd rejected her, she had never once called me. I answered the phone. "You're probably thinking about killing my father right now, aren't you?" she said immediately, her voice calm and steady. "If you really want to get revenge, listen to me. Calm down. Right now, and you think last night was the first time? You think that's all there is between him and your girlfriend? If you want to know the rest of it, we should talk somewhere else. The corner brew. I'll be waiting for you. And I have a feeling you'll be there." Without giving me a chance to speak, she hung up. She was so sure I'd calm down, so sure I'd go meet her. And she was right. The rage didn't vanish, but it froze, solidifying into something cold and sharp. I stood up, walked out of the office, and headed for the corner brew. Madison was already there, waiting in a booth by the window. She was wearing another white dress, her long hair framing a face that looked as serene and clear as ever, like a saint in a world of sinners. I had often wondered if she was really Rick's biological daughter. How could a man so ugly, short, and vile produce someone so tall, beautiful, and seemingly pure? She offered a faint smile as I approached. Her bright, clear eyes were filled with an unmistakable pity. For me, 2 cups of tea were already on the table. Green tea, my favorite. After all these years, she still remembered. "Just tell me what you know," I said, sitting down across from her. My voice was ice. I didn't touch the tea. She didn't answer directly. Instead, she picked up her phone from the table, unlocked it, and handed it to me. "Look at this." I took it hesitantly. The screen showed her photo gallery, filled with video thumbnails. Each thumbnail showed 2 people, her father and my girlfriend. Only them. Sometimes they were clothed, eating in what looked like a hotel restaurant. Other times they were naked, tangled together on a hotel bed. One video was in a car. Another was on a riverbank under the moonlight. My hand trembled as I moved to tap on the first video. "I put these on before you do that," she said, stopping me. She pulled a pair of earbuds from the designer bag sitting on the seat next to her, plugged them into the phone, and handed it back. But she held on to the earbuds. "Should I come sit next to you?" she asked with a mischievous glint in her eye. "We could each take one and watch together." "Do you think this is a game?" I snarled, snatching the earbuds from her hand. She just smiled, completely unfazed. I jammed the buds into my ears and started watching. The more I watched, the deeper the shock, the hotter the rage, the heavier the shame. It turned out Chloe had been with Rick almost since the day I started working for him. My getting that job hadn't been because Rick recognized me as his daughter's college classmate. It was because of Chloe. I remember my interview. Chloe had come with me for support. Rick had looked at us, said we seemed familiar, then looked at my resume and asked if we were his daughter Madison's classmates. At the time, I felt a little awkward about it, hesitant to work for the father of a woman I'd rejected. But Chloe had nodded eagerly and shot me a look, urging me to play along. The salary was great, and I was desperate to start building a life for us, so I took the job. I never knew that Rick had set his sights on Chloe that very day. And according to the videos, Chloe hadn't put up much of a fight. In exchange for his money and promises, she had treated our vows of love and our shared dreams as a joke. In one video, I heard her telling Rick with a fawning tone that a loyal little simp like me would never find out as long as they were careful. She even boasted that if I ever did find out, it would only take a few sweet words to get me back on the leash, and I'd go right back to being her devoted doormat. Rick had roared with laughter, his disgusting body shaking as he grunted that a pathetic loser like me deserved to be cheated on. Seeing that, I felt the phone in my hand start to shake, the veins in my hand popping out. "Don't break my phone," Madison said calmly, gently taking it from my grasp. I glared at her, my vision turning red. Honestly, if she hadn't taken it, I might have smashed it against the wall. "Why are you looking at me like that?" she asked, her smile never wavering. "My dad is the one who stole your girlfriend, not me. You're not thinking of taking your revenge out on me, are you? If you have any guts, you'll go after him. If you can only get angry at me, then you really are the simp and the loser they say you are. Not only will they look down on you, but so will I." She leaned forward slightly. "Of course, if you do want to get revenge on my father, I can help you. And I guarantee it will be more satisfying and spectacular than anything you could ever imagine." "Why?" I managed to choke out. "Why would you help me? And how? What could possibly be more satisfying than what I'm imagining right now?" Her gaze was unwavering. "It's simple, because I love you more than she ever did. I always have, and I always will. As for how I can help," she continued, a playful yet serious tone in her voice, "you dump your girlfriend, and you marry me. Become my father's son-in-law." She was still smiling, but her eyes, bright and clear, were filled with a desperate, hopeful light. For some reason, I felt a sudden urge to cry. Once a long time ago, when Chloe first told me she wanted to be with me, she had smiled just like that, a mix of joking and deadly seriousness, her eyes full of hope. And in the end, she had betrayed me, treated me like a fool, and planned to keep me in the dark forever. I blinked hard, forcing the tears back. Now was not the time for grief. It was time for revenge. I looked at Madison and nodded. "Really?" Her eyes widened in genuine, disbelieving surprise. "Yes." My voice was quiet, but my nod was firm. My gaze was as resolute as it had been all those years ago when I had turned her down. That day she had cried. Today she cried again. But these were not tears of sorrow. They were tears of pure, unadulterated joy. "I've waited so many years for this day," she whispered, her voice thick with emotion. "I know you're only doing this for revenge. But I don't care. Even if it's all a lie, I'll cherish every moment. Because my feelings for you are real. More real than anyone's." She leaned across the table, her composure finally breaking. She grabbed my hand and pressed it against her chest. "Feel my heart," she choked out. It was pounding a frantic, desperate rhythm under my palm. I didn't know if it was love, but I knew, without a doubt, that it was real. I got home very late that night, but Chloe was even later. I was already asleep when she finally came in. I vaguely registered the bed dipping beside me, the rustle of the covers as she slid in. I instinctively reached for her, my arm finding her back. She was already wearing her pajamas. She didn't push my arm away, but she didn't turn toward me either. I was too deep in a haze of exhaustion and turmoil to care, and I fell back asleep. When I woke up the next morning, she was already dressed. She was wearing a stunning new outfit, looking vibrant and beautiful. The expression on her face was one of pure, unadulterated happiness. It was the same look she used to have when she was getting ready to meet me for a date. A bitter wave of hatred and pain washed over me. I knew she was going on a date, but it wasn't with me. It was with that old, foul pig, Rick Peterson. The new clothes, I guessed, were a fresh gift from him. She didn't seem to notice the storm brewing inside me. She just smiled brightly and told me an important client was flying in from out of town, and she had to go pick them up from the airport. She made a point of adding that the client was a woman. Then, without a hint of guilt, she turned and walked out the door. As her silhouette vanished, a cold smile touched my lips. The moment the door clicked shut, I called Madison. "Bring your birth certificate and social security card. Meet me at City Hall." I hung up, grabbed my own documents, and walked out. Madison was already waiting for me on the steps of the building. She looked more beautiful than I had ever seen her. When we took the photo for the marriage license, she leaned her head against my shoulder and smiled with such genuine, shy happiness. We walked out with the official certificate in hand. Looking at our picture, I felt a strange sense of unreality, a flicker of doubt. It was as if this wasn't an act of revenge, but fate, as if she and I were always meant to be. She, however, clung to my arm like a real wife, her head resting on my shoulder as we walked her car. We drove straight to the Starlight Inn. She had already booked a room 809, on the 8th floor. It had to be the Starlight Inn, and it had to be room 809, because, as she had found out, her father and my now ex-girlfriend always used the same room, 808, and they were in there right now. As soon as we got to our room and lay down on the bed, my phone buzzed. It was a video call request. From Rick. I knew exactly what he wanted. I could guess it with my eyes closed. Without a moment's hesitation, I answered. I kept the camera pointed at myself. Madison, understanding immediately, pressed her body against mine, but kept her head down, out of frame. All Rick could see was my face. On his end, however, the view was explicit. He and my ex-girlfriend were on full display, holding nothing back, their bodies moving together in a grotesque parody of passion. It was designed to hit every one of my nerves. But Chloe looked off. Her eyes were half closed, her expression slack. She never once glanced at the camera. I suspected she was on something. Not that Rick had drugged her against her will. No, knowing what I knew now, she had probably taken it willingly to please him even more. Ha ha! Rick's boorish laugh filled the speaker. "See this, kid? I'm with your girlfriend. We're in room 808 at the Starlight Inn. Sound familiar? That's right, it's the same room you delivered my Viagra to the other night. And guess what? The woman in the bed that night was your girlfriend, too. And here she is again. Huh. Are you shocked? Are you in pain? Are you furious? I want you to watch me cuckold you. The more you suffer, the better it feels. Ha ha ha." He was a caricature of arrogance. "That's funny," I said, my voice dripping with amusement. "Because I'm on the 8th floor of the Starlight Inn, too. In room 809, as a matter of fact. Right next door. And I'm not alone either." "Oh." Rick's laughter faltered, a hint of confusion in his eyes. That was my cue. I slowly turned the phone. And at that exact moment, Madison lifted her head from my chest, looked directly into the camera, and pressed her face against mine in a tender, loving gesture. Rick froze. Then his face contorted into a mask of pure, apoplectic rage. He started screaming, incoherent curses spewing from his mouth as he scrambled off Chloe and clumsily pulled on his clothes. The video feed went black as he threw his phone down. A second later, we heard the door to 808 slam open. He was screaming in the hallway, pounding and kicking at our door, roaring for me to open up so he could kill me. I just held Madison closer, a profound sense of satisfaction washing over me. We ignored him. His rage escalated. We heard him on the phone, first yelling at the front desk, then calling the police. A few minutes later, hotel staff and a couple of cops arrived at the same time. A manager swiped the key card, and the door swung open. Rick stormed in first, followed by the officers. A few hotel security guards and curious guests crowded in the doorway behind them. I remained on the bed, holding Madison, and smiled pleasantly at him. He lunged toward me, his hands reaching out as if to drag me from the bed. But he stopped. We were wrapped up together under a single blanket. It was obvious from our bare shoulders that we were naked underneath. He could humiliate me, but he would never, ever let his own daughter be shamed in front of police officers and a crowd of strangers. He wanted to hit me, but he knew he was an old, out-of-shape man, and I was not. He was trapped, impotent with rage. He pointed a trembling finger at me. "It was him, officers," he shrieked. "He tricked my daughter. He drugged her and brought her here. Arrest him. I want him to rot in prison. Before the cops could even move, I reached over to the nightstand, picked up the freshly minted marriage certificate, and held it out to them. We're legally married, officers, I said calmly. One of the cops took it, glanced at it, and then looked at us with a knowing smile. Sorry to interrupt, he said, handing the certificate back to me. We'll leave you two to it. He turned to the crowd. All right, folks, show's over. Let's give the happy couple some privacy. Rick stared, his eyes wide with disbelief. He snatched the certificate from my hand and looked at it himself. His face turned a shade of purple I'd never seen before. This is impossible, he roared. It's a fake. He tore the document to shreds. Dad, it's real, Madison said from beside me, her voice calm and clear. We just came from City Hall. You ripped up his copy, but I have mine right here. And even if you tear this one up too, it's all on file with the county. We can get a new one anytime we want. You, he sputtered, pointing from her to me. You too. He couldn't finish the sentence. His eyes rolled back in his head, and he collapsed onto the floor in a heap. Madison quickly dressed and rushed to his side, and soon the room was a flurry of activity as she and the others helped him, calling for an ambulance. I was the last to leave the room. As I walked out, I couldn't stop myself from glancing into the open doorway of room 808. Chloe was still in there. She was alone, curled up on the bed. She was laughing and crying at the same time, her hands covering her face as tears streamed through her fingers. Was she laughing at herself? Did she regret it? A strange, hollow ache echoed in my chest. I turned away and walked out of the hotel without looking back. I never saw my ex-girlfriend again. She didn't stay with Rick. She just vanished from my life, silently and completely. Rick never left the hospital after his collapse that day. And I learned the truth. Chloe had never intended to betray me. The first time she met Rick alone, it was a trap. He had called her, lying that I was with a client, had gotten drunk, and needed her to pick me up. My phone was off at the time. The battery had died, so she couldn't reach me. She believed him and rushed to the hotel address he gave her. When she got to the room, I wasn't there. Instead, there was a strange, sweet smell in the air. Before she knew what was happening, a man she didn't know grabbed her from behind. She tried to fight, but a wave of weakness washed over her, and she collapsed. What happened next was a nightmare. The man, a business partner of Rick's, assaulted her. When it was over, as she lay there broken, he had told her, with a smug grin, that he was HIV positive. It was a secret he kept from everyone, even from Rick. His goal was to spread the disease to as many people as possible. In that moment, Chloe's world ended. The pain and despair were unimaginable. But she didn't end her own life. That would be letting Rick get away with it. He was the architect of her destruction. She decided to get revenge. That's why she stayed with Rick, pretending to be his willing mistress. It was her only way to get close to him, to pass on the disease and destroy him from the inside. That's why she had pushed me away, sleeping beside me every night, but never letting me touch her, always finding an excuse. She was protecting me. And that day, in room 808, when she realized I was next door with Madison, that we were married, her quiet, lonely tears were not for herself. She was crying with joy for me, and with sorrow for the love we had lost forever.